our faith, open our hearts and fill our bodies and souls with persistent strength.
Enliven our spirits and engage us deeply in this life of ours, this sacred, essential moment now.
Please join in our opening hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us, in your gray hymnal. Our wisdom story this morning is from a book called Little Tree by Lauren Long. Once there was a little tree with little leaves who was surrounded by other little trees who all had leaves of their own. In the heat of those long summer days, Little Tree's leaves kept Little Tree cool. Squirrels would climb up Little Tree's branches to play, and Dove sang Dove's sweet song. Little Tree was going to grow big and strong. Autumn arrived like it does, and cool winds filled the air. The wind tickled Little Tree and passed through Little Tree's branches. Then the air grew cold, and the leaves on the trees changed to yellow, gold, orange, red. And one by one, the trees began to drop their leaves. But not Little Tree. Little Tree held Little Tree's leaves tight. "Hello, Little Tree," Squirrel said. "Are you going to drop your leaves now?" But Little Tree felt unsure. Who would Little Tree be without their leaves? Winter came. "What are you going to do with your leaves still on?" asked Deer. And Little Tree just hugged those leaves in tight. Spring arrived, and the forest burst into life. The other trees grew bright new leaves, and squirrels climbed in the branches. The seasons came and went. "Little Tree," said the duckling, Your leaves are brown. Are you feeling sick? A fox said, Little tree, it's time for you to drop your leaves. You can do it. 1, 2. But little tree just hugged those leaves in tight. And all around the forest grew and grew and grew, until one summer, little tree couldn't feel the sun anymore. The dove was so far away that little tree could not hear the song. Autumn came again, and leaves covered the ground. Little tree looked up at the other trees, their branches reaching into the sky. And he remembered when the trees had all been the same size as little tree. And then he let go. As his last leaf floated to the ground, for the first time, little tree felt the cold of winter. But in time, something happened. Little tree could grow again, and grew and grew and grew, until little tree's branches reached up into the sky, and little tree felt happy. In the middle of the forest, there lives a little tree learning to let go. And so ends our wisdom story.
The more I read the papers, the less I comprehend the world and all its capers, and how it all will end. Nothing seems to be lasting, but that isn't our affair. We've got something permanent, I mean in the way we share. It's very clear our love is here to stay, not for a year, and a day. The radio and the telephone and the movies that we know may just be passing fancies, and in time may go. But oh, my dear, oh, love is here to stay. Together we're going a long, long way. In time the Rockies may crumble, Gibraltar may tumble. They're only made of clay, but our love is here to stay. Our love is here to stay. Our love is here to stay. Our love is here to stay.
Thank you so much, Concords. Our reading is by the poet, an excerpt from the Book of Hours 2 by the poet Rainer Maria Rilke. How surely gravity's law, strong as an ocean current, takes hold of even the strongest thing and pulls it toward the heart of the world. Each thing, stone, blossom, child, held in place. Only we sometimes, in our arrogance, push out beyond what we belong to. If we surrendered to Earth's intelligence, we could rise up, rooted like trees. So like children, we begin again to learn from the things because they are in God's heart. This is what the things can teach us: to fall, to patiently trust our heaviness. Even a bird has to do that before a bird can fly. So something about me, and maybe some of you, is that letting go is not my strength. Do I have any fellow not letting goers? Okay, thank you, I feel less alone. When I see a problem, I want to solve it, not accept it. When stressed, I want to control a situation. Anyone else? Yes, okay, thank you. Fight for the outcome I think is best, figure out the workaround, or just stay in denial that something bad is happening. And sometimes this not letting go is sort of neutral, like the time I stubbornly tried to grill burgers in 20-degree weather in a snowstorm, insisting we stay outside in the cold for hours, and if we just added more coals, we could cook these burgers before giving up and cooking them inside on the stove. And sometimes the not letting go pays off. For any bakers in the house, I have saved a broken buttercream frosting that my housemate Annie had given up on by frantically Googling how to save a broken buttercream frosting, and then following the instructions to melt it down to a particular temperature and re-whip it. And sometimes the not letting go really doesn't pay off. I have sadly driven for hours on a flat tire as the car shook wildly beneath me, convincing myself it was just Massachusetts potholes and all would resolve if I just kept going. It did not resolve. Not being able to let go can be a bit of a hard way to be in our world and in our lives. There is much going on in the life of the world and in our own lives. There is ongoing pandemic, ongoing white supremacy, violence near and far, ongoing economic precarity, and war and fires and floods of the storms and storms of the spiritual and the very material, ongoing violence against queer people and women and so many of us. And as much as I am a person of faith and hope and data and science on my good days, I don't know how any of this turns out. Of course, we know a lot. There is history and experts and our own experiences that tell us that we as humans have very little hope of healing ourselves, our communities, and our world. And there is also history and experts in our own lives that testify that we know a lot about healing our world, our communities, and ourselves. Many days I feel fully in my heart that we are totally screwed and everything is possible. It is a time when we don't know a lot. And there are many things that we can't problem solve or work around or frantically Google and then beat the buttercream to the exact right consistency into certainty. We have to practice what is in some ways the heart of our faith as Unitarian Universalists. We have to love and we have to let go. We can't give up, and we won't give up a path toward a better world, and we also don't know exactly what it looks like. There's a beautiful song called River by the band Mamuse. Oh, river, I hear you, feel you calling me. Oh, river, who will I be when I reach the sea? We don't know who we'll be when we reach the sea. Hard news, and also maybe good news. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to visit the state of Mexico and the mountains where the monarch butterflies migrate and spend their winter. Maybe some of you have been there or seen photos or videos. It was a dream of a dear friend of mine, and I got to go along for the ride. Many tried to explain to me the total majesty and awe of these hundreds and thousands of monarchs who live their lives on this migratory journey, who fly down from the trees and the foothills, covering the sky like nature's most generous sunset-colored confetti. The migrating monarchs can be a metaphor for so much. They can be a metaphor for the mysteries of the natural world, that we do not know how they come back to the same hills, the same altitude year after year, navigating by electromagnetism or DNA or the sun. They can be a metaphor for living beings that know no borders as they freely cross from Mexico across the walls into Texas, north to the Midwest, the Northeast, Canada. They can be a metaphor for the fragility of our world as they live so briefly and die so quickly, but their impact, their beauty is profound. The takeaway for me, standing under those thousands of orange fluttering wings, butterflies paying me no mind, just living their butterfly lives, was letting go. Letting go of so much that I cannot change and will never know. An acceptance of this world that is so beautiful, so broken, so full of mysterious, miraculous life that lives side by side with harm and suffering. The communities of people who have lived alongside the butterflies for eternity have been hard hit by these pandemic years. People working in the US and Mexico City came back to villages, and some turned to logging to survive. The villages have also had resources extracted from them by tourists who believe that somehow they discovered the butterflies and were entitled to the business opportunities they provide. But others, whose families have been forest rangers protecting and studying the butterflies for generations, now themselves run tours, turning tourist dollars into sustainable infrastructure, helping their friends and families understand how logging impacts the butterflies and the possibilities for sustaining both the people and the butterflies. There is so much history and information that says we do not know a way through to a world that is thriving for all of us and the world, and so many moments when it's clear that we know so much. Our work is to love and to let go. Right before going to visit the butterflies, my partner Oscar and our dear friend and housemate and fellow Unitarian Universalist minister Annie and I put an offer on a house that we now live in together. I had met Annie more than 10 years ago at our Unitarian Universalist General Assembly, and we were introduced through a mutual friend who invited us to share a hotel room. And that's how we found ourselves two strangers riding the early morning shuttle to worship together, going to all the receptions that had free food together, protesting the white supremacist sheriff Joe Arpaio together, planting the seed of what is now a very dear friendship and life companionship. Some years later, I took a job in the cubicle next to her at our Unitarian Universalist Association, and then she moved in with me with her husband when she was 8 months pregnant. Now, in 2023, neither Annie nor I have the partners or jobs that we had when we met in 2012. Instead of 2 couples and a new baby in a 2-bedroom apartment in Boston, we are now 4 adults, 1 50-pound dog, an 8-year-old who also lives at her dad's, and 2 new babies in a house in Malden. We have new loves in our personal lives and in our ministries. We had no idea how it would turn out, who we would be when we reached the sea. People told me it was nuts to live with someone else's kid, and people told her it was nuts to live with adults who are not her husband. It's now been a year since we started the chapter of our friendship where we are co-homeowners. And then 4 months ago, when my daughter was born, we started a whole other chapter. There's still so much we don't know about how it will all turn out. And here we are, finding our way, letting go of the leaves that we need to let go of so that we can grow, so that we can reach the sun. We hold the gravity of love, community, and care at the center. In my work as a community minister, I hear from hopeful and also desperate people in jail and their families and their attorneys. People who call have often lived through torture, sickness, kidnapping, war, have walked through whole countries, lost many people and homes along the way. And now they are living in the particular hell that is the U.S. immigration detention system. And I often don't know how to put love at the center of that hell. But what I try to remember is that if someone is reaching out to get out of that hell, then they believe it is possible. And if they believe it is possible, then surely I can believe that it's possible. We don't know how this all goes down, who will be in the sea that is the future. So much seems possible, so much seems impossible. And amidst overwhelming uncertainties, still somewhere, there is love. Love that reminds us that we can stay human on the brink between all of the possibilities for healing and transformation and all that is lost. Love that can be our compass and our gravity, whichever end of the phone we are on. We must be the people who love butterflies and have no idea how long they will survive. We must be people who love our friends and have no idea where we'll be in 6 years or 16. We must be people who do the work of justice and peace in times of violence. We must be people who fight for an earth that can sustain people and a people who can sustain our earth, even as the waters rise and the fires rage. We must love and let go. No one knows what this precious and good community and our good spirits and this good world will look like in 6 months or 6 years or 16 years. Some things will surely be so different. Some things will surely be the same. Some things will have been lost, others gained. We will love, we will let go. We will let the gravity of love and connection and interdependence do its work on us. We will let go of leaves and learn to grow in new ways as we reach towards the sun. There is sacredness here too, that we don't know who will be when we reach the sea. but we may love and let go and come back to letting love lead the way. Amen, and may it be so.
Some say love, it is a river that drowns the tender reed. Some say love, it is a razor that leaves your soul to bleed. Some say love, it is a hunger, an endless aching need. I say love, it is a flower, and you its only seed. It's the heart afraid of breaking that never learns to dance. It's the dream afraid of waking that never takes the chance. It's the one who won't be taken, who cannot seem to give, and the soul afraid of dying that never learns to live. When the night has been too lonely and the road has been too long, and you think that love is only for the lucky and the strong, just remember